All right, let's get over to the NFL because we got a good one between these two in the AFC North. Oh, boy. Longest tenured coaches, not just in the division, but in the league. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, they know each other pretty well. Both have a Lombardi on that resume, but it's been a while. Some fans and others in NFL circles believe it's time for a change of the voices when it comes to that leadership. This weekend's game could tip the scale with one moving on or neither and possibly staying in 2026. But take a look at it when it comes to their history. 17 years of this budding rivalry between the two. They'll face off for the 40th time on Sunday. The winning culture, of course, is built part of this DNA in this rivalry. We've seen it over time, but Harbaugh is the winningest coach for the Ravens in history, while Tomlin has never had a losing season. That has been a theme between these two. We'll get, of course, another chapter, and the winner moves on to get the 4 seed when it comes to the AFC playoffs. All right, for more on this, my guy Damian Harris tapping in 2025 before we get to 2026. And let's play a little game here, Damian, called this buying and selling. And we are talking about this. It's been chatter for years, not just this year, but maybe heating up so far this season with Tomlin and Harbaugh. Are you buying or selling the end of the road for either coach here after Sunday?
You know, I'm definitely selling the idea that this is going to be the final season that Harbaugh is coaching the Ravens. I'm willing to buy that this will be the last season for Mike Tomlin coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, when I say this, does that mean they're going to fire him? Potentially not. He has earned the respect and the command of that organization through exactly what you just said. He has not had a winning season, but there's a lot of people that seem to think that Mike Tomlin just needs a fresh start. Maybe the relationship has grown stale. Maybe there's a lack of motivation or intensity, and we've talked about this with the Steelers all season long. At first, it was the offense. Is this Aaron Rodgers project going to work? Then it turned to the defense. They're old, they're slow. Yes, they have veteran experience, but they can't really keep up with the league's most explosive offenses. So we've been trying to diagnose what exactly is the problem in Pittsburgh, and it might just be a lack of motivation for Mike Tomlin. So there's been a lot of rumors that, you know, he'd be a highly coveted candidate for a TV job if he wanted to take a year off. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would be willing to sit down and interview Mike Tomlin. Even in the college world, I've heard his name connected to Penn State. You know, obviously they just hired a new head coach, but just thinking future forward thinking, people just think it's time for a little bit of split up. And one thing I will say, Brandon, I'm not ready to confirm some rumors that I've heard yet, but there are some rumors that there's a situation going on, a personal situation going on with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, that if there is validity to those rumors, I would continue the same conversation that it's probably just time for the two sides to part ways.
Well, let's stick with that, because if it is Mike Tomlin, let's say they do win, and of course, it's great, great. It's not another losing season on his resume. But is there a situation that maybe we could say that Tomlin says, you know what, I've heard all the smoke and mirrors about people wanting me out, complacency of not having a losing season. Could he chuck the deuce? Are you buying and selling that? And him maybe deciding to leave?
Well, I would buy into that because it's a perfect situation of I've done so much for this organization, for this city, and yet you're still asking me for more. So guess what? I'm going to let you have your more. I'm going to let you have the greener side of the grass, and let's just see how that works out for you, because Mike Tomlin's reputation, it speaks for himself. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He has done everything that he needs to do to cement himself as one of the better coaches in NFL history. And with such a long tenure with the same organization, again, I point to that. Maybe it's a lack of motivation. Maybe it's personal stuff off the field. And then you tie in the fact that the same fans that you have consistently put winning seasons in front of, you've made fans proud to be fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're still saying it's not enough. So every man has its price, and sometimes that price is peace. We always talk about there's a price, and we're talking about financials. Maybe the price for Mike Tomlin is peace, because again, he's done so much for this organization, for this team, for these fans, and yet they're still expecting more after the illustrious run that he's been on. So I would definitely buy into some stock to say maybe Mike Tomlin is just ready to step out of that limelight in Pittsburgh, step away from the negativity after all the positivity he's brought to that organization, and just weigh out his options from there.
Yeah, if anything, he's had the best of this rivalry between the Ravens, 22 wins to 17 when it comes to Harbaugh on that. So we'll see him Sunday. Over in Vegas, look, Pete Carroll's return didn't really pan out the way it was supposed to be. It's hit rock bottom. 2-14, you're looking at the #1 pick. We hear about all the conversations of Max Crosby not playing Sunday, other starters as well. Buy or sell, this could be the end for Pete in that run in Sin City.
Bye, 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 bye. Listen, this just, it didn't work out. It was a great feel-good story. It's almost like the Phillip Rivers situation, but at the head coaching position, right? And when you look at what Pete Carroll had, what he was gifted, he got his quarterback in Geno Smith. He got his coordinator in Chip Kelly. He got a top 10 pick in Ashton Jeanty. He's got one of the more generational tight ends in Brock Bowers at the tight end position. And there's absolutely nothing to show for 2 wins that we have seen to show for this. And I think when you look at that in totality, on top of the situation with Max Crosby, you're fighting with your biggest star over his commitment to play. And like, what's the mentality of this team right now? It just doesn't fit. And I love Pete Carroll. I have a lot of respect for him, especially what he does on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that that's why the offense was so stagnant at times and couldn't really ever find a rhythm throughout the course of the season. But again, I don't think that looking at the #1 pick in this year's draft is going to save the Las Vegas Raiders if Pete Carroll is still at the head. I think that they just need a completely fresh start, maybe get younger at the head coach position, which I don't think it's possible to get any older, but get younger, get more rejuvenated on the offensive side of the ball. That way you can start to go out and produce points, get good quarterback play, find ways to get Ashton Jeanty, make him more explosive. He's shown spurts of why he's the top 10 pick in the draft, but at the same time, there just hasn't been enough creativity in the offense. The offensive line hasn't played well enough for him to really break out and be the star that we expect him to be. So all that to be said, respect to Pete Carroll. I respect what he's done taking this job and the circumstances that came with it, but I think it's his time to go.
All right, so Vegas looking for answers when it comes to the head coach, but over in Atlanta and Miami, Mike McDaniel and Raheem Morris maybe saving themselves in their jobs in December, little spurts here around the end of the season. But is it safe to say they did enough? Are you buying, selling that, look, these guys will be here in 2026?
I'm buying. Definitely Mike McDaniel, which first of all, Stephen Ross, we know he doesn't want to get rid of Mike McDaniel. And I think the quarterback change that happened when they benched Tua and threw Quinn Ewers into the starting lineup, I think that was Mike McDaniels detaching himself from Tua, because all season long, when we've talked about the problems with the Miami Dolphins, there's always been those two guys. Once the GM was gone, it strictly fell on the shoulders of Mike McDaniel and Tua. And so Mike McDaniel said, I have to cut this tether for the safety and security of my own job as the head coach of this program. And we've seen he's had success since then. So I definitely think he saved his job. And Raheem Morris has done a masterful job at just getting guys motivated to play. I mean, look at how those guys from the Falcons played against the Rams this past weekend on Monday Night Football. And a team that doesn't have anything to play for, which so we thought, which there may be a situation where they could make things a little spicy with some help from some other people, but a team that has nothing to play for against one of the juggernauts in the NFC that at one point we were talking about fighting for the #1 seed in the conference, and they just came out and pushed them around. They were more physical. They could run the ball. They put Matthew Stafford in a vacuum. They kept Puka Nacua in check. And then you go back and look at when they beat the Bills, right? Bijan had another great performance, right? There's so many things about this Atlanta Falcons teams that just makes you wonder, what if they just put it all together consistently, right? That's one of the biggest things in the NFL is handling success, right? The Falcons, they've had a lot of success, and then we've seen them kind of drop in their performance. And that's because they're a young team that isn't really figuring it out yet. Obviously, Penix, he tore his ACL, so that played a major factor in the direction this team was going. But I think Raheem Morris has done a good enough job getting these guys motivated from an X's and O's standpoint, but also from a motivational standpoint of going out, doing your job, executing game in and game out, regardless of the circumstances. Now you start to look to 2026 and you start to figure out, what's the quarterback situation going to look like? Obviously, we know Penix is dealing with the ACL, so we're not sure what his timeline really looks like. Then you got Kirk Cousins, who at first we all laughed, we all joked about how in the world can you justify giving Kirk Cousins, coming off an Achilles tear, $180 million. Well, on the back end, when you lose Michael Penix and you see the way Kirk Cousins has played over the past couple weeks, then it all of a sudden starts to make sense. And then all of a sudden we have a quarterback controversy of who is going to be the quarterback of the Falcons next year. But what I will say is Raheem Morris did a phenomenal job of putting Kirk Cousins in a situation to be successful, to run the offense, to be that veteran presence on the field and in the locker room to where he could make a difference for this team. And I give all that credit to Raheem Morris and to Kirk Cousins a little bit because he is a true professional. But this is Raheem Morris's team. They play for him. They fight for him. And it's just about this offseason. Can they just find a way to put it together more consistently week after week after week. I think Raheem Morris has gained the ability to go out and try to do that.
All right, we'll see how that pans out. Real quick, buy or sell, Dame Harris will have some waves in 2026. Real quick.
Come on. Buy. Hold on. Buy.
He's swimming. Dave, as always, appreciate it. Tap it in there. Take a look at the slate on CBS. Start at 1 Eastern. We get the Colts and Texans, Packers, Vikings, Browns, and Bengals at 4:25. Chargers and Broncos, and a boatload more on Sunday at CBS and Paramount Plus.